Throughout history, wood from the yew tree has been a preferred material for making bows. In part 1 of this video series, I showed you how to harvest a yew tree using a 5,000-year-old style copper axe. This tree was cut in the spring when the sap is flowing and the bark peels easily from the log. This smooth layer under the bark will become the back of our bow. Great care should be taken to protect the single smooth layer, as any damage from cuts or nicks in the back of the bow would compromise the integrity of the wood and could cause the bow to break. After letting the wood season for over a year, I was ready to begin work on our bow. I began by splitting the log along its natural grain using wooden wedges. Once the log was split, I began shaping a bow stave using my copper axe. A 5,000-year-old yew bow stave was found high in the Italian Alps near the frozen body of Otzi the Iceman. His bow stave had similar chop marks in the belly of the bow from his copper axe, although it is likely that he shaped his bow stave while the wood was still green and unseasoned. The basic design of the longbow I will be making will be thicker in the handle and gradually taper to a thinner diameter near the nocks. As you form your bow stave, you begin to see the unique characteristics of yew wood that makes it ideal for making a bow. The darker heartwood is able to withstand the compression forces, and the lighter sapwood is able to withstand the tension forces that are put on it as an arrow is drawn. When shaping the bow stave, I begin by marking the center of the bow and the area where the handle will be. I then begin to shape the bow using stone tools. For this bow, I will be using flakes of obsidian, which are incredibly sharp but become dull very quickly. These obsidian flakes can be used as a draw knife to shave down the wood. I usually get about 5 minutes of use out of each flake before it becomes too dull and needs to be replaced. Another useful stone tool to have on hand is a piece of pumice or sandstone. Obsidian draw knives work best on a flat surface, so as bumps and irregularities develop, an abrasive stone can be used to return the wood to a smooth surface. As you remove excess wood, the basic form of the bow begins to take shape. It is at this point that you want to see how the limbs are bending. This process is called floor tillering, and it lets you see which areas of the limbs are still too thick and need to have wood removed, and it lets you see how each limb is bending in proportion to each other. Once the limbs of the bow are bending evenly, it is time to form the nocks to fit the bowstring. The most simple way to do this is to cut 2 grooves into the wood at the end of the bow. Another method that has been used for hundreds of years is to glue horn nocks on the tip of the bow. For my hunting bows, I like to form the nocks out of the teeth of a large carnivore such as a bear or cougar. I begin by shaving down the tip of the bow stave so that the hollow mountain lion tooth knock will easily fit on the end. It is also at this time that I cut grooves into the wood to accommodate the bowstring. To secure the tooth nocks to the bow, I use a natural birch tar glue. This is the same natural glue that Otzi the Iceman used more than 5,000 years ago to glue his fletchings onto his arrow. Once the glue has cooled and hardened, I further secure the nocks to the bow by using back sinew from a deer. These thin strips of sinew must first be soaked in warm water or chewed on in your mouth until they become soft and pliable. These wet pieces of sinew can then be wrapped around the tooth nocks, the area where the bowstring will go, and directly below the nocks to help reinforce the tip of the bow. As the sinew dries, it will shrink, forming a tight layer of tendon that will help protect the bow and the tooth from splitting and cracking. My final step is to spread a layer of warm hide glue on the sinew to help secure it as it dries. Now that the nocks are complete, we are ready to string the bow and start the final tillering process. The most important part of this step is to make sure that each limb of the bow is bending evenly. You can see here that the lower limb is bending more than the upper limb, and that the tips of the bow are still very stiff. To correct this problem, I shaved down the thicker areas on the upper limb and lightly shaved down the tips of the bow. While it's still not perfect yet, you can see that the upper and lower limb are bending much more evenly with each other. After some final fine-tuning adjustments, we are ready to put the finish on the bow. I do this by using a plant called a scour rush, which is in the horsetail family. This primitive plant contains silica in its cell walls, which allows it to be used as a fine grit sandpaper to put a smooth finish on our bow. The final step is to waterproof the wood using natural oils. I like to do this by rubbing the entire bow with chunks of deer fat. Now our bow is ready to shoot in all kinds of weather. This finished bow shoots incredibly well and pulls about 75 pounds in draw weight. Yew wood self longbows have been used by skilled archers for thousands of years. It is incredibly satisfying to learn how to develop the skills to make and shoot this simple, deadly primitive weapon. I encourage anyone to take on the challenge of hunting with a primitive bow and arrow. To learn more about making yew self bows, I suggest you read the first volume of the Traditional Bowyer's Bible. The section on yew wood bows was authored by John Strunk, who is a master bowyer and a good friend of mine. He offers one-on-one classes on how to make bows, sells yew wood staves, and finished bows at the email address listed above. Another great place to buy primitive bows and staves is from a fellow Oregon bowyer named Carson Brown. He sells primitive archery supplies on his website, echoarchery.com.